When it comes to space, there are two famous monsters that always come up first, the Xenomorph and the Yautja, better known as the Alien and the Predator. These two franchises were often the first to be mentioned when it came to sci-fi horror. And for good reason, these kick. So it's no surprise that we would eventually see these two creatures duke it out in battle. But the journey getting there was anything but simple. From James Cameron comparing it to Frankenstein meets the Wolfman, to waiting on an election for casting decisions. We are here to tell you what the f happened to Alien vs. Predator. The journey to receiving this clash of titans was quite the arduous ride. But where did it all begin? Way back in the far distant year of 1989, Dark Horse Comics published Aliens vs. Predator, and it absolutely blew up. Who'da thunk it, putting these two against each other in a story? And we saw that story repeated several times in books, video games, and even 1990s Predator 2 made reference to it, with a lone Xeno skull on the Predator ship. But both franchises were far from dead. Predator 2 had released to a box office total of $57 million, and Alien 3 and Alien Resurrection still saw a good deal of success. In fact, Alien's helmer James Cameron was even in the midst of developing a fifth Alien movie. However, as soon as talks of Alien vs. Predator started, Cameron stopped working on his story, feeling they were destroying the property. Peter Briggs wrote the original spec script, which was entirely based around the Dark Horse comic. Unfortunately, the script just sat on the shelf at 20th Century Fox for over a decade, until some movement finally started again in 2002. The issue was simple: the franchises needed to cool off before they could do the crossover. With Alien Resurrection successfully pulling off that, Fox pushed forward. Kevin Fox and James DeMonico wrote a draft and, like the Briggs draft before them, based it upon the Dark Horse comic. This proved to be a mistake though, as producer John Davis rejected it, wanting the story set on Earth. Having found success with the Resident Evil series, Paul W.S. Anderson took the opportunity to pitch his own AVP story to Davis, which even included some concept art. Davis felt that Anderson was able to pay respect to both franchises, a rather difficult feat. They brought on Shane Salerno to help polish the script, and he also helped during production. Anderson took on directing duties, and suddenly the film that no one wanted to make was ramping up production. Unsurprisingly, the first actor cast for the production was actually Lance Henriksen. And you may be asking yourself, but how can Henriksen be in it? His character isn't even alive yet in the Alien universe. And yes, with the difficulty of the Alien films being set far off in the future, the idea of using any characters from those films outside of the Xenomorphs seemed impossible. Thankfully, cyborgs exist in the Alien universe, and their design just so happened to be based on their creator, Charles Bishop Weyland. He's the CEO of Weyland Industries, which would later merge with the Yutani Corporation, where they're busy being super evil in the future. So, Anderson was able to get his connection to the Alien verse. As for a connection to the Predator franchise, we were very close to getting Arnold Schwarzenegger reprising his role of Dutch. Arnold was in the midst of a re-election campaign for California governor. Had he lost, he would have taken part in a brief cameo at the end, stepping out of the massive Predator ship. Unfortunately though, Schwarzenegger was re-elected, and we never got Dutch's return. Most of the cast of explorers were European, as Anderson wanted to have a worldly and diverse group. Ewan Bremner, Tommy Flanagan, and Colin Salmon were all recognizable character actors and helped to fill out the crew roles, which is good because these people get very little development, so any familiarity is greatly appreciated. One part that Anderson had trouble casting for was the lead, Alexa Woods. Loosely based on the character Machiko Noguchi from the comics, hundreds of actresses auditioned. But after impressing Anderson, Sana Lathan was selected just 1 week prior to shooting. As for how they were going to bring the alien and predator together in a story, there was the difficult task of dealing with two properties in two very different time periods. Anderson didn't want to conflict with any established canon for either series, so setting it on Earth proved difficult, as the xenomorphs are an unknown creature in the Alien series. Had there been some conflict during the 21st century, the Xenos would be well known. Something that they completely forgot for Alien vs. Predator Requiem. But for this one, it was decided to set the film in Antarctica. The Predator race would return to Earth every 100 years for a rite of passage ritual that involved hunting down the xenomorphs. Sometimes, however, it would not go their way, and they would be forced to wipe out the entire area. This was supposed to explain the disappearance of many different civilizations over the millennia. A group of explorers from Wayland Industries set out to explore the ancient pyramid beneath the ice in Antarctica. Only when they get there, it becomes a battle for survival, as the xenomorphs keep breeding and the predators want to hunt them all down. It gets pretty ridiculous at points, and even features the much maligned decision of teaming one of the predators up with a human. But it does feature one of the coolest endings ever, so I'll give it that. There had been many different rumors about the film over the years. That it would be set on a hostile world where the creatures would duke it out in a fight pit. Another claimed that humans would try to lure predators to a location with alien eggs. Or my personal favorite, set far in the future. This follows a similar plot to Alien, only a predator boards their ship waiting for a chance to face his greatest challenge, the xenomorph. Really, no matter where they started, these stories always ended with the aliens and predators duking it out. Usually with a trail of human bodies in their wake. With a budget of approximately $60 million, the production started in the Czech Republic in late 2003, with the film taking place mostly in Antarctica, specifically in an ancient pyramid. Nearly 30 unique sets were required. Having already done the creature work on the prior two Alien films, Amalgamated Dynamic was brought aboard the project. Despite having very established designs, many elements were changed for the creatures to give each one a distinct look. They're also considerably larger than their prior appearances. The aliens are much slimmer, mostly relying on puppeting and CGI versus the man-in-a-suit approach. The massive alien queen was built in 3 different versions: full size, a miniature one, and finally the CGI model. That cool fight scene between the Predator and Alien that goes all slow motion, 1 whole month to film. Which is even more mind-blowing when you find out how fast the whole thing was shot. Despite the massive production, Alien vs. Predator was shot in only 2.5 months. For such a large action movie, this was significantly lower than its contemporaries. But it wasn't just filming that was condensed. Even the post-production was just 4 months long. Again, these numbers are absolutely unheard of for the time. Let's look at another action horror film that released that year, Van Helsing. The Hugh Jackman-led film had an estimated budget of $160 million, filmed for 6 months, and had nearly 11 months of post-production. God damn. Alien vs. Predator released on August 13, 2004 in the United States and brought in over $38 million on its opening weekend. Worldwide, the film was able to end its run at over $177 million, making it a massive success. But critics were not kind to the creature feature, earning a 22% fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes. The critical consensus was that gore without scares and cardboard cutout characters make this Clash of the Monsters a dull sit. Fans have been kinder, although the criticism over the lack of blood and the massive linebacker-like design of the Predators is valid. Oddly enough, James Cameron, who famously hated the idea of pitting the two creatures against each other, actually liked the movie, calling it pretty good, and ranking it as his 3rd favorite Alien film. So much for it killing the property. There was an unrated version released on DVD that gives the film a little more flavor, But don't get your hopes up about much added gore, because it's essentially the same movie in that regard. There's an added scene at the beginning where we see what's happening to the early 20th century humans in what we can assume is the last rite of passage. We also lose a bit of character development between all the human beings at the beginning. As is, we barely get any insight into anyone that's not Alexa or Sebastian. Waylon's death adds some CGI blood. No, really, they even add some very CGI blood trickling out of his mouth. It's hilarious because this isn't even that violent, yet they clearly cut it in order to achieve a PG-13 rating. We've gotten a ton of games based on the property, and we actually covered them on the channel on our old Playing with Fear series. They're a staple of many childhoods, including my own, and are a blast to play. But none of them are based on this film. 2007 brought us Aliens vs. Predator Requiem, and it is known as one of the worst films in either franchise. So that speaks to just how downhill they went in just one movie. It's an absolute mess and completely negates the very cool ending from this film. Shane Black's The Predator also made mention to AVP, showing Lex Wood's spear at the Project Stargazer base. There are varying opinions on this film, but if anything, I'm just glad we were able to see these two duke it out on the big screen. While it would have benefited by following the humans a lot less and upping the gore, what we received was still night and day better than its follow-up, so I guess that's something. And I made plus, what other Predator movie do we get this Batman and Robin style run? What movies would you like to see us explore next? Comment below and we'll see you in the next one.
Aliens and Predators and Marines, oh my, on today's episode of Playing with Fear. Welcome back to JoBlo Horror Videos Playing with Fear, where we take a look at some of the landmark horror titles throughout the history of gaming. Today we will discuss an often overlooked title in the history of gaming, burdened primarily by releasing on a largely unsuccessful platform in the Atari Jaguar.
Jaguar! Jaguar! Jaguar!
Not only is Alien vs. Predator a reason to own Atari's failed 64-bit console, but it laid the groundwork for how to do a horror license justice in video game form and added unseen depth to the first-person shooter genre. In 1979, Ridley Scott unleashed the horror masterpiece Alien onto the world, and, much like other successful franchises, it would get the video game treatment. Beginning with the aptly named Alien on the Atari 2600 in 1982, game developers would try a handful of different approaches to game design. Pac-Man clones, top-down escape simulators, and side-scrolling action set pieces all made the rounds for the property throughout the early 80s and 90s. Each new film, 1986's Aliens from James Cameron, and David Fincher's Alien 3 from 1992, would bring additional games in varying styles, all starring the dangerous xenomorph. The first film, while being steeped in science fiction, eventually becomes a sort of space slasher film, with the alien picking off the crew members one by one until Ripley, the film's final girl, finally blows the creature out into space. Spoiler alert for a 42-year-old film that you should have absolutely seen already. While the film boasts a great score, memorable set design, and fairly good acting, it was the xenomorph, designed by Swiss artist H.R. Geiger, that became the standout and icon of the film. 1987 would give us another cinematic extraterrestrial classic with the Arnold Schwarzenegger vehicle Predator. Following Dutch and his military unit in the jungle under the false pretenses of rescuing a foreign cabinet minister, the film sees the unit stalked by an extremely talented and dangerous hunter in the form of the Predator. One by one, the team is taken out by the creature until only Dutch is left to take out the monster. Gee, sounds familiar when you say it like that. Similarly to the Alien franchise, Predator would spawn a sequel and get the video game treatment, though less on both counts. The first game would be Predator on the Nintendo Entertainment System in 1987 to coincide with the film, followed by games of the second film in 1990 and 1992 for various microcomputers, and later the three mainline Sega systems. Both of these franchises and their respective medias were popular, but they wouldn't meet until Dark Horse Comics released the first series, Alien vs. Predator, in 1989. They would continue to publish this matchup for over 30 years, and the plots would influence toy lines, novels, big-budget movies, and of course, video games. The first of these virtual fights to the death would be the Super Nintendo side-scrolling beat-em-up Alien vs. Predator. You take control of a predator who receives a distress signal from Vega 4, where a nest of aliens has taken control. Less there to save the colonists and more to challenge yourself to a good hunt, the Predator fights through 6 stages in a procedural, if not overly difficult, beat-em-up game. This concept would be taken further and better 8 months later when Capcom released the all-time classic Alien vs. Predator. Taking the beat-em-up action and ratcheting up to 11, this arcade exclusive would see up to 3 players choose from either 2 predators or 2 humans, including Dutch from the '87 original film, and go on a hunt to eradicate the aliens, Queen included, from a fictionalized city in Southern California. While this game is an undisputed classic, it doesn't really capture the horror action vibe that the original films looked to create. It instead very closely resembles a comic book set in motion, with the humans being more cyborg in appearance, and the overall experience being more akin to a cartoon in a video game form. Enter developer Rebellion. Rebellion was founded in Oxford, England by the Kingsley brothers, Jason and Chris. They presented the idea for a 3D Dragon Flight game to Atari UK, who were so impressed that they were hired on to make 2 games for the upcoming Atari Jaguar system. One of these 2 was Alien vs. Predator. You are the final alien drone. Your queen has been kidnapped and your only goal is to rescue her before she is killed for sport or used as a weapon by the humans. Making your way through vents and various floors, you bite, claw, and whip your tail against predators and marines alike. After battling through enemy lines, you are able to save your queen and ensure your species will thrive and dominate. You are a nameless predator. Your ship is docked onto the Golgotha training base after receiving a distress call from the inhabitants. You are not there to help though. No, you are there to hunt down an alien queen and bring honor and glory to your clan by collecting her skull. Using all the hunting weapons at your disposal, you sneak and kill your way through marines looking to survive and alien drones looking to protect their queen. When all is said and done, you battle through the nest and bring honor to you and your clan with the skull of the queen of a powerful race. You are Private Lance J. Lewis. The base has been overrun by aliens and predators. You have no weapons or way to get help. Your one goal is to blow the ship to Kingdom Come with the self-destruct failsafe and get out alive before it goes off. Finding clearance keycards and weapons left throughout the vessel, you take the elevators and vents to get you where you need to be. You work your way to the Queen Alien nest where she is the last obstacle between you and the bomb. Defeating her and setting the timer, you barely make it to the escape pod before the ship and everything else inside of it blows. Okay, so the story isn't the expository revelation that later horror games tried to flesh out, but look at the type of game and the time period. First-person shooters barely had more than a text screen of story in the beginning and end of the game in those early years. The basis for the game had a lot to pull from, but the time constraints on the game for a brand new system, as well as the developers still figuring out what they could and couldn't do in a first-person shooter, left the story on the back burner. In terms of gameplay, did you notice there were 3 storylines for 3 characters back there? Up to this point in FPS games, the player would follow the exploits of one character through multiple levels or episodes, but AVP gives the player the option to play as the alien, predator, or marine right off the bat. This was a huge innovation that AVP brought to the genre, and even then, it didn't catch on as a regular feature throughout the FPS genre like it did in, say, third-person survival horror games. First, let's discuss the Marine, as he's the most complex of the 3 playable characters. On the surface, your goal is to blow up the ship and escape, but the way you do it is different from your average mid-90s FPS. When you awaken out of cryosleep, you are completely defenseless. Thankfully, walking out of the first room nets you your first weapon, a shotgun. The Marine plays out much closer to survival horror than the FPS games before it. id Software's landmark shooters Wolfenstein 3D and Doom were littered with ammo, and the main goal was to shoot your way through enemies while finding keys to aid in your progression. AVP treats the situation much differently. First off, ammo is not abundant. There's usually a better case to flee rather than fight, or at the very least, pick your battles. Second, the Marine does have to find keys, but they're no longer just the color-coded squares you'd see in past games. He must find the clues written in the logs on various computer stations to find out where the keys are to get him to the next floor. As you progress, you will find a pulse rifle, flamethrower, and smart gun to beef up your arsenal. In addition to these armaments from the films, you will also be able to find and use the tracking device that will show you how many enemies are near and their location, or at least direction. Another strategy when fighting the alien enemies is where to kill them. Just like their movie counterparts, their blood is deadly acid, and if the player character walks over it, they will lose some health. Shooting an alien in a doorway is a quick way to guarantee health issues on that floor. Unfortunately, in the vent areas, there's no way around this, and you just need to have the health to make it through. The facehugger aliens will also ruin your day in this game by jumping on your face and not only damaging you, but covering your field of view. Next up is the Predator. While your mission is as straightforward as can be, kill the alien queen and bring back her skull, your means to get there are not what you would expect. The Predator works with an honor system. Sure, you can use your invisibility cloak often to silently kill your foes, but this is seen as dishonorable, and you will lose unlock points. These unlock points are used to unlock your full arsenal. The claw, staff, disc blade, and plasma cannon are all here, but only by honor killing will you unlock them. While you are bigger and scarier than your human counterpart, you will still take damage from both alien facehuggers and the corpses of your fallen enemies. While the Predator does not require clearance keys, he also cannot use the vent system. He takes elevators to the different floors and clears them out to unlock his arsenal and work his way to the Queen. Probably the easiest of the three modes, the Predator is also the most overpowered of the three characters. In addition to weapon choices, the Predator also has multiple vision modes to help him on his quest. The final character is of course the Alien. The Alien character is the weakest of the three choices, but also has the game's most interesting mechanic. You can cocoon a marine enemy so that when you die, and since the Alien character cannot find medkits like the other two, you will absolutely die, then you will appear in one of up to 5 available cocoon slots you have left in the level. While you can save at any time like you can with the Marine and the Predator, this mode gives you an almost unlimited number of lives, so as long as you remember to cocoon Marines every now and again, you'll be fine. The Alien is armed with a claw, tail, and bite attack. He does not need to find keys and doesn't bother with the elevator to change floors, only slinking through the vents to move through the different levels. While having the least number of weapons and the least access to health, the Alien is certainly the most unique player choice found in the game. There are certainly a lot of things this game does to push a scary environment. There's no music in the game. Gone are the blips of Wolfenstein or the iconic death metal MIDI tracks of Doom. The only background noise is the low hum of the power from the ship. It's a nice touch. To tie into the lack of music, the screech of the aliens when they spot you will surely put some sweat on your brow. And an even better use of sound design, however, is the tell that a predator is stalking you. With the iconic distorted whisper, the predator will let you know it's coming for you long before you see it. Finally, once you get the motion tracker, it can be helpful, but the blips will also add extra stress to your day. Is the game scary nowadays? Certainly not compared to the later AVP games or current horror first-person shooters, but it still has a spooky charm. Was it scary in 1995? Absolutely. Between the digitized sprites of aliens and predators, as well as all of the above-mentioned gameplay and audio design, there really wasn't anything else like it, and much of what made it so unique is still effective today. The legacy here is both multifaceted and complicated. The game was released in 1995, and 26 years later has never received a port or remaster. Jaguar emulation is spotty at best, and of course this is one of the more expensive Jaguar games to pick up. In addition, many of the horror or survival horror elements were tweaked or even skipped entirely by the horror FPS titles of the mid-1990s. Games like System Shock or Blood are fantastic horror games in their own right, but are also completely different from AVP. While we would get a slow release of Alien or Predator games here and there, we wouldn't get a true horror experience until 2014's Alien Isolation. There is a feel-good story here, though. While the Jaguar system was an objective failure, the game itself sold well, and Rebellion, the studio behind it, was able to make quite the career out of their entry to the Jaguar. Not only are they still making games today, but were able to remake their vision of Alien vs. Predator twice, in 1999 for the PC, and again in 2010 for the PC, Xbox 360, and PlayStation 3. While those two and other AVP games are certainly more accessible to play, they surely wouldn't exist without the first steps taken here. Have any of you out there played this? What are your favorite Alien vs. Predator games? Let us know in the comments. Thank you for watching our show. If you like what you see, please subscribe to our JoBlo Horror Videos channel. Tell your friends who like this sort of content and turn on the bell to receive notifications for all of our latest videos. We're an independent company and we appreciate all your support.